Hello and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. And I thank you today for attending my session today on contracts management with SharePoint Syntex and Microsoft Teams. I thank you, Teams Nation, and all the moderators, organizers, attendees, and speakers for giving me this opportunity. And I'm looking forward to attending some other great sessions on Teams Nation today. A little about me. My name is Leon Arnston. I'm an M365 solutions consultant at Intelligy in London in the United Kingdom. I've worked quite a bit with Syntex and even evaluated it when it was part of the Project Cortex initiative that Microsoft did before release. I've took quite an interest with SharePoint Syntex in the past around 18 months as more and more technology comes to Syntex and we begin to see the power of it. Through my company's relationship with Microsoft, we've been able to give feedback and talk to the product team, which has been really insightful and invaluable. I then used Syntex with quite a few customers to build some great, intelligent, integrated solutions. You can find details on this slide on how you can connect with me. You can check out my blog, leonarnston.com, or connect with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or GitHub. So today, a rough agenda that I want to cover is I want to give a quick intro to SharePoint Syntex. So you might not know much about SharePoint Syntex. So I want to give a quick intro, remind you of some great, or make you aware of some great licensing updates that have come from the Syntex team, which makes Syntex a more compelling story. Talk about some of the pillars of SharePoint Syntex, so document understanding, turning content into knowledge, and forms processing, which is another AI model that can extract content out of and make it into knowledge. And then we've got content assembly, which is a new feature of SharePoint Syntex, which allows for document generation. And then finally, I want to give you a demo on contracts management with SharePoint Syntex. So, an intro to SharePoint Syntex. In Microsoft's words, SharePoint Syntex uses advanced AI and machine teaching to amplify human expertise, automate content processing, and transform content into knowledge. So it's all about getting value from all of your content that's in your organization, that's in your SharePoint, and yeah, perhaps extracting metadata and reporting on it or actioning it. And there's, as I mentioned, there's two methods of data classification extraction use, forms processing and document understanding. And there's also classification to apply compliance features such as sensitivity labels or retention labels. There's been quite a few updates to SharePoint Syntex, and they're bringing more advanced features to the SharePoint Syntex suite. So there's content assembly, which has just arrived, and then they're bringing vertical solutions for contracts management. And I imagine there'll maybe be more, so like an invoice management product, or not product, but a guide, like a tool set to deal with invoices. I want to make you aware of this licensing update. So apologies for the word of text, but I'm just repeating Microsoft's words and breaking it down into to emphasize some points. So at Ignite last year in about November, Microsoft announced that every Microsoft 365 user will be able to build models to classify documents and extract metadata. They can access content centers and work with processed documents and their metadata. Until now, a Syntex seat license was required to work with any documents or metadata that have been processed by Syntex. So we found that as quite a handbrake for organizations to adopt SharePoint Syntex, because for each user that was using Syntex, they needed a Syntex license, which was around $5 per user per month, or in UK money about £3.70. Now that can add up in large organizations, but yes, you needed a Syntex license just to access a document library where Syntex had extracted metadata from documents and associated that with the document. So you now don't need a Syntex license to access those libraries anymore. So a Syntex seat license is still required, though, for the processing documents, including uploading content to be processed. So yeah, people that have got just reading the documents, they don't need a Syntex license. But people actively uploading content to be processed do need a Syntex license. And then to use the other advanced Syntex features like advanced metadata search, document generation, image tagging, and vertical solutions, you will need a Syntex license to access them. So document understanding, it uses a concept of document understanding models to automate classification of files and extraction of information. So classifiers are used to identify and classify documents. So this is, you would set up a model to say, target contracts and pick out particular parts of a contract. But first, you need to identify the contract. So the idea is you could upload 20 documents to a library, and there may only be one contract within that, within those files. And the idea is Syntex will look at those 20 files, and it will just pick out the contracts that are within those files, and then maybe apply some retention labels to keep it for indefinite or 7 years, for example. But it won't do anything to the other files that are not contracted. And then we have extractors to pull particular information from these documents. So say the contract number or the contract date or the fee amount. We could then push this model out to many libraries. So say if we had a project site, we could push out this contract model out to many different project sites. And then when someone uploads the contract to the library on the site, it will pick out the metadata and identify that it's a contract, and perhaps push out some retention for that contract. Document understanding works best with unstructured documents, so letters or contracts that have text that can be identified on phrases or patterns. So document understanding can deal with variable length documents. So typically, there could be one page, there could be two, or there could be multiple, and the text could be in any particular place on the document. So we're looking for particular phrases or patterns on the document. I'll now just quickly show through screenshots a document understanding model. So SharePoint Syntex uses a special site called a content center, and within there you train your models. So here's an aviation incident report that I've also uploaded to the PMP Syntex samples GitHub repository. So you can see that I've uploaded some training files to train my model, and then you can see that I'm trying to extract, I've got there's more extractors. So from these aviation incident reports, I'm extracting the incident date, the flight number, the incident ICA code, and the airline. So you can see here, I'm trying to extract the flight number here. So I've trained my model to point out that I want to extract this text here, and then I've added some explanations. So my explanation, the prefix is this flight number here. The subsequent is this incident ICAO code. So it's looking for text between the flight number and incident ICA code. And then I've got a regular expression to pick out what a flight number will always look like. So a flight number always has, in terms of the regex, an alphanumeric and then a dash numeric. So we can see that that picks out that ADB 3829. Then we have another concept in Syntex of forms processing, which uses AI Builder to create AI models within SharePoint document libraries. This one needs to be set up for each library. So you need to set up and train the model for each library. And this uses machine learning to identify and extract key value pairs or table data from structured or semi-structured documents like forms and invoices. So I'll just move on to my example here, and we can see that here's a example form, and this is using precise locations. So we're always looking for the date, and it's always going to be in this section of the page. We're always looking for the invoice number here. We're always looking for the salesperson, and it's always in that section. There is some variability. They've brought in table line items here. So this large rectangle here, we have set it to pick out the line items. So all of these line items are added to a separate SharePoint list. So we extract all of the line items here. And then we've got further ones for subtotal and the sales tax. So those values will be added to the document, and then the line items to a linked SharePoint list. So I now want to outline content assembly, which is document generation. So I'm excited by this because I could see the processes that could be achieved with this with SharePoint Syntex. So SharePoint Syntex could extract some metadata and then kick off an action to generate a document or a contract, for example. So this is, you may have used in Microsoft Word, modern mail merge. I think I have, but it's, yeah, many years ago when I was at school doing my GCSEs in Microsoft Word. So the idea is it will help you generate standard repetitive business documents such as contract, statements of work, service agreements, or letters of consent. It allows you to use an existing document to create a modern template. So you might have a service agreement or a contract, and then you use that template to automatically generate new content using SharePoint lists or user inputs as a data source. I'll show in the demo content assembly, but basically you've set up all your placeholders, these green places here, and then we would select the contractor, and then we would select, that would be linked to a SharePoint list, and then from here we would select which SharePoint list entry we want to use. So we select Alan DeYoung, and then you can see it auto-populates all of these fields here, and we can see, not very clearly, apologies in this demo, but we can see that it's updated the placeholders here. And then as I mentioned, I'll go into more detail with content assembly, but a document is then created. So this, what I've just talked about in my presentation so far is what Microsoft and the Syntex team are talking about, the typical content lifecycle, aka the circle of life for documents. So you have this idea that in many organizations, there's many teams or automated processes creating documents within the organization. We could then add those to a document library, or they may already be in a document library. And then they're classified. So it's looking at the documents and say, only extracting an invoice, only extracting a statement of work, only extracting. So it's finding the particular types of documents for a particular model. Then we have the metadata extraction. So we've trained it to extract certain pieces of metadata from those documents. We then have where that metadata is applied to the documents. We could now the documents have been correctly labeled and enriched with further metadata. We can then, using that metadata, do search queries over the whole SharePoint farm using PnP modern search, or using the SharePoint Syntex advanced metadata search. So we could search for particular types of contracts, particular contractors, clients, for example, or contracts greater than £50,000, for example. And then once those documents are discovered, we can react to them. So we could put them in a workflow. So only contracts over 50K have to go for approval, or that talks to another system once they found a large contract that then sorts out payment, for example, from a finance system. And that just keeps on completing. But the key is using syntax and content generation to simplify and help the content lifecycle, which is typical of many organizations. So I now want to demo a contracts management solution to you. So here is my contract management sites that's being created. So we could request a contract from the site here, but because this is Teams Nation, I want to do this through Teams. So I can go in here and request my contracts, or this could be as part of a workflow populating this. So no human intervention needed. So I'll do Teams Nation contracts as a title. They're going to request it by Alan DeYoung. He's in the creative department. It's going to be a service agreement. He wants the contract on Friday, and the fee amount is going to be 780,000. That's quite a large contract. It's going to be for comedy services, and then let's get some random addresses. Let's populate the address fields. And the key is here that we're going to generate a contract using these details. But first, we need approval. So the contractor is going to be good old Microsoft demo Megan Bowen. So this has now been requested. This has a Power Automate flow behind the scenes that will send a notification to the manager to get approval. So this has a flow behind the scenes. We have when a contract is requested. So we're just waiting for this to trigger. So we have the contract requests when an item is created, sets the status to requested, and then it posts an adaptive card to the Teams channel and waits for a response. So this sends some details about all the contracts here. And we have two approval and reject buttons. So we'll just go back to here, and hopefully we've not triggered the flow yet. I've been having some troubles recently where the flow has been taking a little while to kick in. 12 seconds ago. There we go. We have a flow running now. So if we go back to our contract request channel and go to the chat, we can see our adaptive card that's just being created. And this is asking for approval. So we can see that it's for $780,000, the required date, or we could even click on the document. We can add some comments to go, I approve this. And then we can click approve. Now that then sends back a adaptive card. Imagine this would be like I've done this all for one user to make it easy to demo, but yeah, I'd imagine the person that submitted it would get a notification as well as the person that has just approved it. So that's been approved. So now if we go to the contract requests library, we can see that the Teams Nation contract has now been approved and is awaiting generation. So now I can use Content Assembly to create a contract for the contract request that I've just received. So if I wanted to create a new modern template using Content Assembly, this is where I would do it. I'd go create a modern template here, but I've already created a service agreement using a modern Content Assembly template. So I can just click on service agreement here. And then I can select the client here, and this links to my SharePoint list here. So I can select the contractor, Megan Bowen, with the 780,000. And then that will auto fill in all of the fields that I've mapped. You can have manual dates, so we can add some manual dates, the contract date of today. And I can change the name. So this is Megan Bowen Teams Nation. And I can create the document, and it's super quick how it will create the document. So if I go into done, and then I click on my document, and I can see my document that's just been created. So we can see the contract is between Contoso, the address, Megan Bowen. We can see that for comedy services, we can see that it's the contract value is 780,000, and we filled in a few other fields down here. So now the idea is that we would then, the contracts have all been created. The idea is now that this would be sent out to the contractor to be signed. So they may convert it to PDF and email it, add it to an external portal, or even post it and send it out that way. So now I want to talk about when we receive that contract back. But first of all, I need to download this contract to my, I need to download the Word document. So first of all, I need to download this contract to my computer. This is going to be sent out and signed. And then what I'm going to do is the user or an automated process is going to drop the contract in the signed contracts library. This signed contracts library has a SharePoint Syntex content understanding model, which is going to extract fields from the contract, so extract key information about the contract. So we can see that this hasn't, the model hasn't run yet. It takes a little while to kick in, but we're extracting the client, the contractor, the service provider, the client address, the contractor. But yeah, that will kick in shortly. I'll show you the model that is set up for extracting contracts. So yeah, we can see that I want the client, the contractor, the fee amount, and that I've applied this model to a contracts library. But I could push this out, like I said, to more sites and libraries if I wanted to. I could, yeah, once, because I'm classifying contracts, I could make sure that every contract always has a sensitivity label of highly confidential, or a retained for 10 years, or indefinite, for example. I'll now go back to the library, and hopefully my document understanding model has kicked in and we've extracted the metadata. And we can see that it has. So it's extracted the client, the contractor Megan Bowen, 780,000, which was the fee amount that I requested. We got it. The content type is contract. In Syntex, all the document understanding models are linked to content types. So we have a contract content type, and we got further details here. So we can then go back to teams. We now have a contract payout channel, and we can see that by dropping that signed contract into that library, the Syntex model has extracted the metadata from it, extracted the client, the contractor, and the fee amount. And we also got some extra conditional logic that uses the fee amount, and if the contract payout request is greater than 20K, it, in my case, just does some fancy formatting that to make it add more emphasis that it's a higher amount. But I can imagine in some scenarios when it's a large amount, it might need to go to CEO approval. It might need to go to 3 different levels of approval. There might be extra business process steps that we need to do. So yeah, you could adapt your Power Automate flow to add additional logic. But what we're trying to do now is say we're the CEO and we're just going to say that we approve of paying out this rather large contract of 780,000. So I approve. And we get a confirmation adaptive card. And then if we go to the payout register, we can see that the Megan Bowen 780,000 contract is ready for payout. So this perhaps could talk to a finance system and automatically do the payment once it's been validated and approved, or this could be the finance team manually having to do the payment, which is what I'm going to demonstrate. So the finance team do the payment, but they want to send a receipt to Megan to say this has been paid out. So we're going to use content assembly again to make a remittance advice document. So again, I've set up my model already. I select Megan Bowen. The comedy services for 780,000. That's rather large for comedy services, but anyway. We can see that we have to enter some manual fields, so we'll enter today, and it'll probably get to her bank account on Friday, for example. We can create the document, and then we can see the remittance advice has all been created for Megan from Contoso Inc., and it was 780,000. £1,000, not pounds, even dollars. So now that completes the demo that I wanted to show you around like the life cycle. So the idea of one thing happens in one place, the next action is picked up by that, and then we create some content. So the content lifecycle, circle of life. So another great syntax feature, I think it was the motivation was from Syntex, but it's available in all SharePoint document libraries, is where you can connect a SharePoint list to Power BI. So for example, we want to see how many contracts we've got to pay out. We could link this to Power BI very quickly, and it will generate this dashboard. I created this, in about 2 mouse clicks. But yeah, this just shows you how you could use Power BI to see what contracts you have outstanding. You can drill down and slice and dice your data. That could be presented within a Teams tab. I'll now go back to my demo. To my presentation. Okay, so the template that I used to start off with this was provided by Microsoft from the SharePoint lookbook. Sorry. I'm just going to stop present again, because I've got my toolbar being shown. Apologies. And there we go. Right, I've got rid of my toolbar. Okay, so it was part of the contract management template on SharePoint Syntex. So you could deploy this to your tenant today. You do, unfortunately, for the lookbook at the moment, still require tenant admin permissions to deploy templates. But yes, you could deploy this today, and it will give you labels and what you have to, libraries and lists, which you can use to replicate this scenario. You have to build all your own flows, and I've added a few more extra libraries, extra fields and models, but it gives you a great starting block. You do need a Syntex license to deploy that. And then I want to also bring to your attention that there is another SharePoint lookbook template for Syntex, which doesn't require a SharePoint Syntex license. This gives you like an adoption guide for SharePoint Syntex. So this deploys a SharePoint Syntex content center, but also has lots of links, and we can see across the top bar we have additional resources, and it teaches you how to create document understanding models, how to create forms processing models. So you can deploy that and have a play about with that, and you don't need a SharePoint Syntex a SharePoint Syntex license. To find out more about SharePoint Syntex, these are the links that I like to use. So AKMS SharePoint Syntex, so that's all of Microsoft's Syntex resources. So that's invaluable if you need to find something about Syntex, some new technology, what's coming, or yeah, look at the docs to find out how to do something. The Syntex roadmap, aka Syntex roadmap, that's a filtered view of the Syntex of the Microsoft 365 roadmap. so you can see what's coming with Syntex, what has been released. As I mentioned, the github.com PMP Syntex samples. So that's the PMP community have created a Syntex samples repository, which has lots of models that you can deploy to your tenant today using PMP PowerShell. So PMP PowerShell have some commands to deploy sample models which have already the training files, the explanations all created for you. So you can see how other people are using Syntex and perhaps see ideas. I've submitted an aviation incident report sample in there. And then finally, as I mentioned, for the last 18 months, I've been using Syntex quite a bit and working with customers. So I blogged quite a bit of my learnings, and that's on, I've created a shortcut to it on bit.ly/Leon Syntex series, and there's a QR code there. But that will take you to my blog where there's a few Syntex blog articles that I've created. I'll go to thank you for this presentation, and then we'll go to questions. But yeah, thank you for your time today and for watching my presentation. Feel free to connect with me using the details on screen, and let me know if you have any comments. I'm very happy to help or advise on your Syntex journey. And I hope you've enjoyed my presentation and gave you some ideas on how you can use SharePoint Syntex in your organization. So yeah, I don't know if there's any questions, Sarah.
You do have one question in the chat. It's quite a long one, so I can read it if you want.
Yeah, let me, yes.
With regard to the licensing, we allow everyone in the company to access the contract management site for them to submit a new contract request. Does that mean they all need a license? Or could we assign one license to a service account to do the modeling? Okay,
so licensing, always the mood killer of the party when we're talking Microsoft 365. So if they're going to be uploading contracts to that library, then they will each need a Syntex license. So anyone that's going to be actively uploading, any uploading will need a Syntex license. It's a very gray area regarding getting a service account to do it, because they have this concept of multiplexing, which is quite a common word in the Power Platform, which is basically when you think you're trying to evade licensing, you probably are, in Microsoft's words, trying to evade licensing. So yes, you will need a license for every user that's going to be accessing it. If, say, you have some users that do have read permission just to that contract solution, so they just want to browse the contracts, then they don't need a SharePoint Syntex license. It's just going to be the users that that do have to upload documents to that contract solution.
Excellent. So basically, yes, everyone needs a license.
Yes, unfortunately, the mood killer.
Yeah, the unfortunate one. Any other questions, folks? If you want to speak up, please feel free to raise your hand and I can unmute you so that you can come off mute and speak to us. Will you be joining the after party later on in the VR alt space?
I hope to, yes. I registered yesterday, and yeah, was trying to design my avatar. So yeah, I think I was going to wear like a blue outfit, and yeah, I was trying to match my hair with my current messy style at the moment. But yes, hope to attend tonight and see a few other people.
Excellent. So people can always find you in the VR space and question you later.
Indeed, yes.
If things occur to them during the day. It was great to see it in action, see it running live, and see the power that Syntex can deliver. So from my perspective, I really enjoyed that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm glad the demo gods behaved.
Indeed, yes. It was just the PowerPoint gods that slightly didn't misbehave.
Yay! Well, it couldn't be all perfect, could it? Not with a demo full session like that.
No. Cool.
Hey, if does anyone have any other questions for Leon then?
Yeah, if you don't yeah, feel like yeah, raising it now, feel free to connect with me on these mechanisms here. Yeah, very happy to answer your questions or yeah, explain and help some of my guidance to help you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I've put the link in, and Leon's put the QR code up for you. So if you don't have questions, please do leave some feedback, and I will post the links for the rest of the rooms into the meeting chat as well for you. So you've got all of those.
Okay.
And I'm impressed with your timing.
Thank you.
I only hope ours goes as well.
Yeah, I know. Looking forward to your session. No, thank you. Yeah, so much for yeah, all of the moderating and yeah, the organising that's gone in, and yeah, thank you for having me today, and to all the people attending my session, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's great.